Bart Starr was born on January 9, 1934, in Montgomery, Alabama. The son of a tough and disciplined World War I veteran, Bart grew up in a household that valued order, obedience, and perseverance. His father, Benjamin Brian Starr, was a strict man, one who expected excellence and rarely handed out praise. Those early years shaped Bart in ways he didn't fully realize until much later. He learned to be quiet, thoughtful, and above all, resilient. In the face of pain, he stayed calm. In the face of doubt, he worked harder. At Sidney Lanier High School, Starr wasn't the top recruit or most celebrated player. He was modestly talented and modest in personality. But he showed early signs of what would become his defining trait: unshakable poise. He had an intuitive feel for the game, understanding angles, anticipating pressure, and keeping his emotions in check when others panicked. These qualities caught the attention of the University of Alabama, and Starr was offered a scholarship to play for the Crimson Tide. His time in college, however, was anything but smooth. In fact, it was nearly derailed. After an injury during a hazing ritual gone wrong, Starr's back was never the same. He played sparingly during his final 2 seasons and was virtually ignored by professional scouts. When the 1956 NFL Draft came around, most teams passed on him without a second thought. But the Green Bay Packers took a chance, selecting him in the 17th round with the 200th overall pick. It was a pick that barely made headlines, but it would change football history. In the mid-1950s, the Packers were far from the legendary franchise they are known as today. They were struggling, directionless, and forgotten by most of the league. Starr joined the team quietly, buried on the depth chart, with no guarantees of ever starting a game. But he stayed, studied, and waited for his moment. That moment arrived in 1959 when a new head coach walked through the doors of Lambeau Field: Vince Lombardi. Lombardi was unlike anyone Bart had ever met. He was intense, demanding, brilliant, and brutally honest. And yet, something clicked between the two. Lombardi saw something in Starr that few others did: a rare mental toughness, a capacity for learning, and a fierce desire to win. Under Lombardi's guidance, Starr began to blossom. He studied film like a scholar. He practiced like a man fighting for his job. He became not just the quarterback, but the extension of the coach on the field. Where Lombardi led from the sidelines, Starr led from the huddle. The Packers transformed almost overnight. From losing seasons to playoff runs, from forgotten franchise to NFL powerhouse, Green Bay became a team feared and respected across the league, and Starr was its calm and calculating leader. He didn't scream in the huddle or pound his chest after touchdowns. He led by example. He led by precision. And most importantly, he led by winning. Between 1960 and 1967, Bart Starr took the Packers to 5 NFL championships, including victories in the first 2 Super Bowls ever played. He was named the most valuable player in both games. But beyond the titles, what defined Starr was the way he played the game: efficient, accurate, fearless under pressure. His quarterback rating during that era remains one of the highest postseason ratings in NFL history. Perhaps no moment better encapsulates Starr's legacy than the 1967 NFL championship game, forever known as the Ice Bowl. Played on New Year's Eve at Lambeau Field in sub-zero temperatures, with wind chills plunging to minus 48 degrees Fahrenheit, it was one of the coldest and most brutal games in football history. The Packers trailed the Dallas Cowboys late in the 4th quarter. With time expiring and the end zone in sight, Lombardi called for a quarterback sneak. There were no theatrics, no trick plays, just grit. On 3rd and goal, behind a line frozen into the tundra, Bart Starr kept the ball and lunged forward behind guard Jerry Kramer. He crossed the goal line. The Packers won. It wasn't just a game-winning play. It was a testament to courage, timing, and trust. Trust in his coach. Trust in his teammates. Trust in himself. But Bart Starr wasn't just a winner on the field. Off the field, he became a symbol of class, humility, and quiet leadership. He didn't chase endorsements or revel in the spotlight. He was the type of man who remembered the names of team staff, signed autographs for hours, and visited hospitals without cameras present. He believed that leadership wasn't about status, it was about service. After retiring in 1972, Starr stayed close to the game. He eventually returned to Green Bay as the team's head coach in 1975. It was a difficult chapter. As great as he had been as a player, success as a coach eluded him. The team struggled, and Starr often found himself under intense scrutiny. But he never made excuses. He shouldered responsibility, supported his players, and maintained the same quiet dignity that had defined his playing career. When he left coaching in 1983, his record wasn't what he had hoped, but his reputation remained untarnished. He had done things the right way. Always. In the decades that followed, Bart Starr devoted himself to charity, particularly causes involving children, mental health, and youth development. He and his wife, Cherry, founded Rawhide Boys Ranch, a home for troubled boys in Wisconsin, which has helped thousands turn their lives around. He became a fixture in the Green Bay community and a beloved figure throughout the football world. In 1977, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His speech was understated and filled with gratitude. He thanked his teammates, his coaches, and especially Vince Lombardi. He reflected on what football had taught him, not just about competition, but about character, about showing up, about doing your job, about caring for the people around you. As time went on and the game evolved into something louder, flashier, faster, Bart Starr remained a touchstone of a different era. An era when helmets didn't sparkle under LED lights, when quarterbacks didn't tweet about their greatness, and when winning was earned on mud-soaked fields rather than hyped on social media. Starr wasn't just a figure from the past. He was a living reminder of football's roots, a time when grit mattered more than glamour, when execution came before ego, when quiet strength was the loudest voice in the huddle. The league changed. It had to. Players got bigger, stronger, faster. Offenses became more complex. Defenses more aggressive. Cameras multiplied, and narratives spun faster than the ball. But amid all that, Starr remained untouched by time, not because he resisted change, but because he embodied something timeless: humility, discipline, grace. In an age where every highlight is dissected, reposted, and rebranded, Bart Starr's most powerful moments lived in silence. In the pause before the snap, in the trust between quarterback and lineman, in the hand on a teammate's back after a tough loss. Those weren't moments designed for the spotlight, but they were what made him great. And greatness, in Starr's case, wasn't statistical. He didn't pass for 50,000 yards. He didn't throw no-look passes or scramble for 60-yard touchdowns. His game didn't lend itself to viral moments or fantasy football dominance. His career, in numbers, was good, but not gaudy. But true students of the game, true lovers of what football represents, always came back to Starr, because his greatness was quieter, deeper, and infinitely more lasting. He was the architect of efficiency, the master of the postseason. In a time when throwing the ball was still considered risky, Starr did it with surgical precision. He read defenses with the eye of a scholar. He released the ball like a conductor cues an orchestra, on time, in rhythm, with intent. And he didn't just win games. He won the games, the ones that mattered most. Playoff games, championships, Super Bowls. When the pressure peaked, when the stadium swelled with nerves, Starr remained calm. He wasn't chasing glory. He was chasing execution. And in that chase, he found legacy. It wasn't just how he played. It was how he carried himself. Starr wasn't a man of big entrances or bold proclamations. He didn't point to the sky after touchdowns. He didn't wear fur coats to press conferences. But when he shook your hand, he looked you in the eye. And when he spoke, you listened, not because he raised his voice, but because his voice was built on trust, on integrity, on a life of showing up and doing the right thing, even when nobody was watching. He remembered where he came from, Montgomery, Alabama, the son of a military father, raised on principles, not privilege. And even as he became a legend in Green Bay, a town that turned frozen Sundays into sacred rituals, he remained rooted. He knew every locker room attendant by name. He thanked the trainers first. He praised his linemen before himself. He visited hospitals. He wrote thank you notes by hand. He listened more than he spoke. In an era now flooded with noise, Bart Starr was a reminder of simplicity, of dignity, of what leadership used to look like, and still can. When he passed away in 2019, the outpouring wasn't just about football. It wasn't just about Super Bowl I or the Ice Bowl or the pristine postseason passer rating. It was about the man. At his memorial, teammates wept. Opponents spoke with reverence. Coaches remembered him as the rare player who elevated a locker room just by being in it. Fans from all over, young, old, Packer or not, shared stories of his kindness, of how he made them feel seen, of how he signed something not just with his name, but with a moment of attention that said, "You matter." He was, by all accounts, a throwback, but not in the sense of nostalgia. He wasn't just a symbol of the past. He was a blueprint for the future, for how athletes could, and perhaps should, carry themselves, how they could win fiercely and live gently, how they could dominate without diminishing others. He was a beacon in a sport that often gets lost in spectacle, a reminder that greatness isn't always loud. To this day, Bart Starr remains a towering figure. Not in stature. He stood 6'1", modest by quarterback standards, but in legacy. He was the first Super Bowl champion, the first Super Bowl MVP, the face of a dynasty built on precision and trust. But more than that, he was the first quarterback to truly embody the idea of a professional, someone who honored the game, respected the uniform, and uplifted those around him. He was never the fastest, never the flashiest, but he was the standard, the example, the quiet cornerstone of everything a team could aspire to be. He didn't yell. He didn't boast. He didn't chase the spotlight. He just won. And not just on Sundays, but in life. In his marriage. In his community. In his business ventures. In his quiet service to others. He won because he showed up. Because he cared. Because he listened. Because he led without demanding followers. Even decades after retirement, when he walked onto Lambeau Field, the crowd rose. Not out of habit, but out of heartfelt gratitude. Because Bart Starr didn't just play football for the Packers, he helped shape what the Packers became. He helped shape what football could be. And every time a quarterback takes the field and leads with humility, every time a teammate is lifted up instead of criticized, every time a player carries himself with quiet pride, Bart Starr's spirit is present. In the film of NFL history, he might not have the flashiest reel, but in the heart of the sport, in its truest essence, he holds one of the most important roles. He was a keeper of the code, a steward of sportsmanship, a guardian of what makes football matter: courage, character, and commitment to the team. And when the story of the NFL is told, not just the points, the trophies, or the stats, but the stories of men who elevated the game by how they lived it, one name always comes up, spoken softly, but always with reverence. That name is Bart Starr.